And we are live. Hey guys, it's our bi-weekly live stream with Brian Level as he runs us through the creative process and draws some really killer shit. So um,
Ideally.
this week he didn't allow
Yeah.
me to suggest any subject matter.
I just
Uh,
didn't I didn't trust myself to like bust one out as quick. Figured that was beginner's luck for me.
yeah, you killed it, and well, I can't remember who snagged Wolverine last week, but yeah, he.
Was it Fred?
No, I don't think it was Fred. Um,
Nice.
I can't remember who it was actually. I can't remember.
Well, I haven't got an address to send it to yet, but when I do, we'll get it figured out. But good evening. I don't know if everybody can see me or if it's just the drawing, but hello.
It's just the drawing. This this stage in the game. I can. I guess there's all three of us. Grant and
Hello.
Jameson. Brian cheated this week. He penciled it out. So
Darn tootin'.
a lot less integrity this week on the stream.
Yeah, I'm pretty known for my lack of integrity, so this tracks.
The have you ever? I've seen some guys do it, but as a tattoo artist, have you ever just like laid down just no stencil, nothing, just straight needle to skin, or is that not?
I'll always take a marker.
Oh, okay.
I'm that dude. Like I can't. Uh, in the words of tattooer Corey Flatmo, he was talking about Henrik the tattooer, and he was just like, man, that dude loves stencils, and it was like he was talking about me because I love stencils. I'm not a freehand sort of guy. I am very much like a draw it with a marker, do a couple of layers. It's always funny, man. Like I'm so used to like comic book art and shit where like, I'll use like a hard lead for a lighter line and then a soft lead for a darker line. Um, just to kind of like, like this drawing that's right in front of us, right? Like those super sketchy lines I did with this hard lead holder, like it's like a 2H or something like that. And then this is like a HB or a 2B, so I can get in and do a little bit more detail, and
Yeah.
a little bit harder and a little bit softer rather to get that darker look. And so I'll do that on skin with like markers. I'll have like a yellow marker to kind of rough it out, an orange marker to refine it a little bit, and then I'll use like a blue or green or something to like really get like the final lines down. And without fail, the client is always like, so are you doing these different colors? Like they just don't understand the concept of refining a drawing, Like they
Yeah.
feel like the colors are symbolic of something. It's like, no, man, I just can't do it right the first time. You know what I mean? Like I gotta like, refine it and refine it and refine it.
Yeah. Well, I can understand the anxiety that rolls through with less experienced tattoo collectors, I guess.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, and that's not like even dogging them or anything. I'm just like, it's without fail, man. Like I kind of always assume someone will just kind of get it, or even just ask, but like be on the right track. Like, oh, you just kind of tighten the drawing, or you know what I mean? It's never the case. It's always just like it cracks me up that it's like kind of like the same sort of energy as like, what's the weirdest thing you ever tattooed? It's always the same question.
yeah, yeah,
That's fine. I don't mind the question, but I always kind of that you get like the more seasoned the collector is, I think the more complex the questions get. I also think there's a discomfort, and it's like just a thing that someone feels ballsy enough to ask or whatever.
yeah.
But that's fine. I don't know. I like people, so I just like fielding questions, especially about stuff I like tattoos and shit.
Who who's done most of your work? You have a favorite go-to artist or
Uh,
guys you know?
no, I just kind of like to get tattooed by my friends.
Nice.
Um, like, I my whole take on tattooing isn't very artistic anymore. Um, like it's very much like experiential. That doesn't mean that I don't put a lot of effort into the art of it, but it's more like the experience of going through a lot of pain. Uh, to me, is more important than a picture. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Uh, so like that's why I don't really fight my clients on stuff unless I really believe in it. But like, there's not a lot of like I don't see tattooing as like my artistic outlet. That's maybe more a social, like I don't know, like a psychosocial, like I don't know, like I don't know, I don't know how to describe it. It's a vocation where it's an opportunity to like let people in, like, and then they in turn let me in, and we get to have relationships, and that's pretty special to me.
Oh
So
yeah.
not really a an artistic thing to me most of the time. I know that sounds ass backwards or whatever, but that's just how I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just telling you how I think about
Well, I found that a little bit as well as a collector, tattoo collector myself. I haven't been tattooed in a little while, but there was the art. Obviously, you're young and uh, maybe more superficial as you're younger. Yeah, obviously, we want good art, but you're kind of worried about, what am I going to look like with this tattoo on your skin? And then, you're still leaning towards the art. But I found the more I'm under the needle, the more it does become an experience thing. You
it.
know, uh, and you start to kind of enjoy it.
Well, and I would argue that that's the case with any experiential sort of experiential event. Is it's initially shallow and then deepens the more that you go through it, like whether it's tattooing or making art. You get obsessed about the product, and the longer you do it, the more like the process is meaningful.
Yeah.
um, Religions that way. I think that's most stuff. um, the more time you spend doing it, the more it deepens, if you love it. Sometimes you can turn it off and just be like, fuck it, it's my job. Like it's whatever, just pay me or whatever. Like that's always an option too, but I struggle with that. I can't think that way.
Yeah. Well, it
I sometimes envy it though, if I'm being honest.
sucks the joy out of it.
Well, sometimes I just envy that ability to like turn off and just sit down and do work,
Yeah.
without any baggage. But I'm a baggage haver. I'll be putting baggage on everything. All right, I'm
So
gonna start inking this thing.
what's your relationship with Sin City and Marv and Frank Miller's work in general?
Frank Miller's weird for me because let me see here. How do I frame him out? He's such a titanic influence, not just on me, but on comic book culture, history, style, like in all facets of it. Even um, it's kind of sum up. It's hard to sum up how you feel about your relationship with him. I don't exist without Frank Miller, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
Um, Sin City and I have a funky relationship because the books I hold very near and dear to me, but I don't go to them often. Like it's like I let them penetrate me more in like a I don't know, like a more like immediate end, and then I put them aside for like 5 years or whatever.
Yep.
And I don't return to them because it's like the memory of someone was talking about that movie Annihilation, and how when Alex Garland talked about making it, he said, I wasn't trying to necessarily adapt Annihilation as much as I was trying to produce my memory of Annihilation.
Yep.
And I feel like that's a lot of how I feel about Frank Miller's work, is I always want to like bring something from my memory about Frank Miller more than like trying to. He's such like I think a thinker on like the page, whether it's with his art or like his approach to writing or whatever, that I always I always want to kind of be in his head a little bit, but then try to carry that stuff over in my own shit, you know?
Yep. Yeah.
Like those new covers, you know, that people are real torn on. I fucking love them. Number one, I love them because people are so torn on them, which to me indicates that there's something there that's special. Um, but additionally, I think like on a clear and obvious, like, oh, this is obvious that he's doing this. He's playing with silhouette in a way I don't think I've seen anybody really have the balls to do, which is like making silhouettes not exist. Like he's bunching everybody up really tightly so they don't have these like, it's almost like their pieces are indiscernible from each other. Uh, and I'm really enjoying that because it's like a really ballsy move and it's a ballsy experiment, you know. Anyway, long story short, I like him.
Yeah, I kind of dug those. Yeah, there's always so much controversy around it, but there's a couple I really enjoyed, like even from just an initial like aesthetic level. You know, I'm like kind of caught my eye. I think it was maybe the Moon Knight one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was my favorite of the bunch. I don't think I can just post images on the comments here.
And that one was interesting. Of all of them, had the most discernible silhouette, the most familiar silhouette. Like that Wolverine, like people kept taking the piss on, and it was funny because I saw a bunch of people try to redraw it. And like, no offense to any of those artists, they did a really nice drawing, but it was fucking hilarious. Because like ain't nobody doing this better than him.
Yeah.
Like every single drawing, I'm like, yeah, you may have done a better drawing on like a craft or like draftsmanship end, but none of them had power. None of them made me have a reaction. None of them did I go, oh, whoa, that's interesting. Like, but Frank's did, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot, you know? In my opinion, of course. I would take everything I say with a grain of salt as a Frank Miller stan.
Well, I find it interesting what you were just talking about too, with how, being, I think on the surface, a lot of people would think, yeah, Frank Miller heavily influences your work, and you talk about how vital it is, but it's kind of the your memory of the thing guiding your influence of the thing. I find that's a very interesting thought, because if you're sitting there trying to draw Marv and you had a Sin City book in front of you, I don't imagine, well, and I'm not trying to speak for you, but I don't imagine it would be as good or as I don't know. I just found that interesting what you're saying.
Well, it's funny because like I was looking up pictures of Marv just to kind of remember his little features and stuff. And I looked at about 3 or 4 Frank Miller drawings, and then I pulled out like stuff that wasn't him, like Eduardo Riso and stuff like that, where it's like, okay, like because if you're looking at the way Frank Miller draws it, you're going to draw it with his shapes because they're so like definitive. Like so the angles of the shoulders and the angles of the face, like everything you're going to just kind of have to ape from him because it's his own visual language that nobody else has. And I was like, well, I can't do that, but I can look at Riso and learn something. But with Frank's stuff, I don't really know if I learn anything as much as like, let me see. He affects me not in the intellect, if that makes sense. But if I learn anything from Frank Miller's work, it's I learn how to be bold. It's not that I learn like how to draw this or how to draw that or what a good composition is or what isn't. I learn like to be strong and to be bold and to be brave and to take chances and to be experimental. And that's to me worth as much as anything.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. And I think if Frank Miller was chatting with us right now, again, I'm not going to try and speak for him, but the type of boldness I think is, and it's tough because you start to look, and I always go back to the comics I'm trying to read now and kind of what I'm drawn to now, and it is, I think the boldness, even if the story maybe doesn't quite hit, the boldness of the books sticks with me. And these are books I tend to revisit more often, even though maybe the stories didn't click, maybe the art didn't even click. But if it's something bold, something kind of fearless, I tend to go back to it quite a bit.
When there's a, like, to make a baseball analogy, right? Like, nobody want nobody wants to be the guy that strikes out because everything looked like a ball,
Yeah,
Like, everybody wants to be the guy that goes out swinging.
yeah,
And even if you strike out, like, at least you fucking swung at the ball. And I think that's a Frank Miller thing, He's always going to swing at the ball, even if it's not a home run, even if he strikes out. And I'm always going to respect that.
yep, yeah. Big swing. You can always appreciate that.
Yeah, big hitter, this guy. He's a home run hitter. He's not a double guy.
I what are you then? I'm just switching gears because I'm trying to. I'm sitting here watching you and trying. All I have to do is gather thoughts. But uh, did you like Terrifier 2?
What do you mean, like?
Did you enjoy it? Just general thoughts. I'm only halfway through it. I stumbled across it on Tubi because it was kind of hard to find for a little while.
Yeah, it was exclusive at Screenbox for a while. So my take on Terrifier 2 is I'm grateful for it.
Yep.
Not because I think it's the best, not because I even really like it all that much, but because I feel like it's essential to be mean in horror sometimes,
Yeah.
to remind people that this is a genre not. Uh, to me, it's the modern extension of fairy tale,
Yeah.
and fairy tales are cruel. They teach cruel lessons, and I think that Terrifiers, though they're barely lessons, the lesson, like, I think the lesson is the cruelty. You know what I mean? And I'm grateful for it. Am I gonna go to the mat for it? Like, if someone's got a problem, no. Am I gonna say I'm glad Damien Leone made it? Absolutely. Am I glad that guy that plays Art exists and does such an excellent job? You bet your ass. Um, so that's my, what's this, David Thornton? He's got like a fucking, like a guy who writes a manifesto's name. But yeah, what about you?
I'm kind of torn. I find every time I sit down to watch some streaming, I'm always it in the back of my mind. I'm always itching for yeah, David Howard Thornton right there.
Yeah,
I'm
that guy
always
definitely shot at a president.
the I'm always kind of drawn to, and I tend to just lean back on comfort horror. Once we get into, and comfort horror for me is just rewatching Halloween.
Hard to beat that.
Yeah, and last night I've been kind of watching Terrifier 2 in pieces. I'm not sure. I've gone back to it a couple times. Last night I'm about a quarter of the way through, but I knew that Return of the Living Dead was
Oh,
on
fuck
Tubi
yeah.
as well. So I haven't watched that in a while.
That's an
And
all-timer.
and that's kind of probably in that comfort horror domain for me as well. So just knowing it was there and I wasn't watching it, I gave up on Terrifier 2 pretty quick so I could start watching that.
Well, I think with Terrifier 2 over Terrifier 1, Joe Bob Briggs always says, like, the plot get in the way of the story. And I think Terrifier 2 is it's such a long movie that it's easy to kind of like be like, come on, what the fuck? Like, let's get to it. Um,
Yeah,
there's a lot of noise to try to legitimize it as like a real movie. When in and I don't say that like to bemoan it, like I respect it, but at the same time, it's like we don't need 2.5 hours of this. Like, it's just not a thing that anybody wants. But I say that, and that's not true. A lot of people do.
are you talking about Terrifier 2 or Skinamarink now?
I haven't watched Skinamarink because I haven't had the time, and I know it's probably right up my alley. I've got Skinamarink, Outwaters, and what was the other one I really want to watch? There's another one on the list too, but
Yeah, Skinamarink was
you're not allowed to talk shit on it. It's Canadian, dog.
oh, and I mean, I think it was shot 3 hours up the road. I dig a lot about it. Yeah, the Outwaters. That's kind of another one of those. It like we said, taking big swings. There's things I found, and maybe this is just me getting old. Without like a more spoon-fed narrative, I was kind of, after watching Skinamarink, I was looking for a narrative without Waters, and it kind of, without spoiling anything. I don't even think you can spoil either of those movies. I think it's almost impossible. But yeah, I think I watched them on back to back, or not back to back, but like a week apart. No, that might be a lie, because I don't know if they were released a week apart. Big swings though. I dug a lot about those movies, various parts. The trailer for Skinamarink is terrifying too. That alone is worth the price of admission.
Oh yeah, in this house.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah. As soon as I saw the trailer, I was like, well, that one's for me. I know there's a adaptation or continuation of a dead Stuart Gordon project coming out soon that I'm very excited about, but I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me, which is super helpful to everybody on the stream. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I've seen anything that's like, so on Tubi, speaking of Tubi, I watched this picture called Baby Blue, and I gotta tell you, I was kind of surprised. It was decent. It wasn't, great. It wasn't like gonna blow your socks off. It was pretty straightforward. Didn't have any, didn't have any, there was a performance in it that was really kind of obnoxious. But beyond that, there was some really cool ideas. I think in the end, like, they could have swung a little harder and had me like all the way. But overall, I was like really surprised. It was like a Tubi original, and it was like, damn, this is better than.
What was it called? Baby Blue?
Baby Blue, yeah.
Huh.
Adam Klein just said that Skinamarink made him feel like he was having a nightmare while he was awake, which I think is a pretty groovy thing to say.
Well, I think the beauty about Skinamarink, and like I said, I think Bold Swing, there's very polarizing, but there are things that hit people of our age. I know we're not all the same age, but we've all, like, I swear, when you're sitting in the living room in Skinamarink, you can kind of smell that exact room, like just how the TV, the light from the TV hits the walls like it's an old TV. It takes you to a place you were at some point as a child. And I swear to God, that's a common shared experience with so many people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Adam liked it. That's good to hear.
Yeah, I gotta give it a run, man.
It's on Shudder, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's the time, like I just haven't had time to like sit down and give myself like, just for me time to, because I got little kids and I'm not going to be like, go to your room, Dad's watching Skinamarink. It would be fucking insane, an insane Wednesday,
Yeah. Well, and it's not something you can just passively watch either.
Right. Yeah.
Because I think if you passively watched it, you'd hate it. It needs your attention, and it needs all of your attention. So it can't even be like, I'm trying to squeeze this in. I got an hour and a half. I'm thinking about something else. You really do need to shut off all the lights and experience it that way.
Yep. Which is, I respect the shit out of like making a movie like that.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen anything else recently that really jazzed me. I'm just, I've been reading some books and doing drawings, been writing a little bit. I was just on a trip, which was essentially, like a cult America, like a colonial walkabout, like essentially how it felt in the end. Just went to Monticello and Roanoke Island and all kinds of shit. It was really fun. I was like, when you write, and anybody on here who's a writer can probably testify to this, is like doing anything at all. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, you could just be walking in the park. doing anything at all is essentially like, for me, it's like someone plugged in like the Exxon like gas pump into your brain, and they just start filling it up. And so when you go have like, and it's a slow fill if you're walking in the park, but if you're going to a new place with a shitload of history where you're like filling in the blanks in your mind, like it's just like someone put that fucker on full blast. So I had like 3 days where I wasn't writing anything, I wasn't drawing anything, and it was like I was going insane because I just like my brain was just spinning around like all these crazy ideas. So I like had to take a day away from the beach on vacation to just like, hey, I'm staying home so I can make notes. And I scrawled like 4 pages of notes in the sketchbook, like down tiny little text. Like if anybody saw it, it would look like I was crazy. Actually, I'll show you. It looks like an insane person made it. I'll show you. These are so funny. So yeah, this was like one of the pages of notes. Just like drawings of some creatures with like insane, like, you know. So if you have a weird writing process, I assure you it's probably less insane than mine. Because mine is usually just like draw a bunch of pictures and label them and stuff, with like connective tissue and lots of. So yeah, that was like, and then I did a bunch of typing too. But that's what happens when you put me on vacation. I start going insane.
It's just slightly more sane than David Howard Thornton's manifesto.
Yeah, no shit, right? You got a real Kaczynski energy on him.
Yeah, so like it just overloads in your brain. You got to take time. Would you normally, like, just on if you're like that sketchbook you have, like obviously you took it on vacation, but would you take it just day to day? Does it come with you to the shop?
Yeah, it does. But it's like, here, I kind of feel like this is humorous, so I'm gonna show. So I have like a very weird way of doing anything. It's very chaotic. Obviously, I'm being very chaotic right now. So, like, my note process is just kind of, well, I don't, yeah, so the fact that I can't even pull them out right now, yeah, so check this out. Look at this shit. So this is like what my notes look like for writing. And it's just like giant swaths of blank. And then now we get into like the real meat of it, which is just like crazy, like insane. Dude, there's stuff piled in here. There's like church bulletins and stuff that I have stuff scrawled on. And it's nuts, man. So you can see like the whole thing looks like, yeah, there's a church bulletin right there. Yep. Well, oh, and I marked off some scripture. And so like that'll go into the text along with some notes here. Inheritance and perishability. So yeah, there's all kinds of crazy bullet. Look at this shit. It's fucking nuts. So all right, written on the back of the song about Zacchaeus, the wee little man. So anyone who's religious or grew up in church might recognize that song. But yeah, so that's what it's like. If I go on vacation, I'm a fucking nightmare person.
Did you guys find a Buc-ee's on the way?
No, because we took a different route.
Oh, geez.
There was no uprising, so it worked out. Everybody was cool. Sorry if this is a boring one today, guys, because I'm like showing fucking insane scrawlings. Whatever, deal with it. This is our stream, all right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we had a good time. I went, like I said, went to Monticello. That'll set your brain on fire. It's so weird and, leaves you so like conflicted in a lot of ways. Because if those of you who don't know what Monticello is, it's Thomas Jefferson's estate, And so they do this really, they do a pretty good job of like kind of like there's like you can go on like the tour for like, like to kind of give you a rundown of like, what enslaved people went through, and there's a whole memorial there, and they talk a lot about like kind of like Thomas Jefferson's like desire to like, well, I'll put desire in quotation marks, desire to abolish slavery, but still kind of be like, well, how are we gonna do anything like that? You know what I mean? want to get rid of slavery, but also, you know what I mean? And it's just like, all right, dude. But then simultaneously, you see the guy's like a self-taught architect, and it's very impressive, and designed a lot. It's just a wild, it just fills your brain,
Yep.
just a non-stop deluge of imagination. Because I grew up. It's the third president on the list. He's a white-haired guy where it's curled up on the ends, and he's number 3 on the list of, when I was a kid, I guess there was 40 or something, 40, like 40 of them, maybe. I don't know the number. And so it was just, he was a dude on a list. And then, you're like, you get a little older and you're like, oh, he wrote the Declaration of Independence pretty much himself with like one other dude, and then it's like, okay, now I'm in his fucking bedroom. This is weird. It's an odd little thing.
Did the kids, how'd they like it?
They're pretty wowed, well, because they get a pretty intense education, and they kind of get a lot of stories, historical stories and stuff, and we try to give them a lot of really try to give them a more proper, like, we try to not whitewash anything, I guess we should say.
Right. Yep.
So like we try to make sure that they have like a full knowledge of everything that happened, without just like kind of like being finger waggy, and it's just like, hey, like this is fucked up shit, like,
yeah,
and the world is fucked up, and we don't make excuses for people when they do this kind of shit, but also like this is still an important figure. It's just interesting, and I think they were kind of really fascinated by a lot of it. We took the tour of the place that wasn't for like Aaron and I. We took the tour for like the kids that were 11 up to 11 years old, whatever. So
yeah, okay.
They made it more interesting for the kids and stuff. And the lady did the tour was awesome. But it was pretty groovy. And and then you go to Roanoke Island and you get hit in the brain pan again. With, everything that happened there, and it's so funny because like on Roanoke, Virginia Dare. Is anybody on this chat like a history dork? Well, shit. We can go back to horror movies if this is super fucking boring, or tattoos or whatever. But no, man, it was cool. I did the beach for a little bit. I'm not a beach guy. I hate it. I hate being there after. Well, let me rephrase that. I like the beach. I got about 30 minutes in me.
And then that's it.
And that's it. I've done everything at the beach. I'm moving on. Give me a book or something.
Yeah.
But nobody made me feel bad about not wanting to, be there. So that was awesome. I have a good family. Kind to me.
They understand.
Hey, you're a manic weirdo. It's fine. Do your thing. You know what? I don't know why. Everyone knows Daniel Warren Johnson. Daniel's a buddy of mine, and when I watch him work a lot, like I just watch him he'll just black everything out and then just go over it with white paint.
Yeah.
And it's always crazy to me because I'm like, for some reason, like there's something that bothers me it doesn't bother me with Dan, it doesn't bother me with other people. But for my own work, like there's something that I really loathe about like seeing the different maybe it's being a metalhead because like you got a black t-shirt, black pants, black shoes, and maybe even a black hat, and none of the blacks match, and it feels weird.
Yeah.
Like one's a little more red, one's a little more blue. So like I feel that way about the white, like the paper's kind of got this earthy coloring to it, and then you put white out on it and it's bright white, and then you put white paint on it, it turns kind of a little bit blue over everything. It's just like, what the fuck is going on? Like I don't like it on my own stuff. But then when I see Dan do it, I'm like, well, that looks awesome. So I'm always like laboring over making sure I got like the white space of the paper showing through.
Right.
Not just putting white out over it. And plus it creates a different look, like when you're doing like the black brush strokes look different than I don't know, than the white paint relieved out of them.
Well, that's what I find odd sometimes is, like you said, that use of the negative space and stuff like that. It's just such a foundational component of so many of the illustrations. I think something I don't find guys like me consider that much. You just see the art and you're like, oh, I like this. I like the composition. I like all that stuff. But the thought process going into that alone, is the paper going to make up the white part of Marv's jacket, or am I going to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah, putting white on there. Um, are you familiar? You know Danny?
Uh, Danny. Oh, Danny Strips.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, Danny kind of has this knack for just only. It seems like in her stuff, it looks like she just uses black. And same thing with Frank Miller on a lot of stuff. I mean, he'll still use white, but his capability of just using black is really kind of special.
yeah,
And I think that's one thing that I always kind of love about his stuff is like Mignola is the same way, right?
yeah, yeah.
Like they take the time to get around the stuff, to cut around it instead of just blasting over it with white. I saw somebody that said that bluishness on the whiteout makes them a little nuts sometimes too. Did I see that right?
Yeah, Jarrett just said that. Yeah.
You gotta wait all. Yep, I think you're right, man. I think it's a matter of like you can't have it just in little bits here and there. It's got to be over the whole thing. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, uh, I guess then I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, no process tips for me. That's for sure.
It would be really funny if we just kind of like showed up and it was Brian does whatever Cam says this day.
Oh God. Yeah, if we're gonna plan on losing some viewers, that would be the day.
Oh man, it would be so funny though.
Well, I've collected art long enough that it's kind of a double-edged sword because I know that you shouldn't really give a lot of direction when you're commissioning art. But then I think my taste is more refined now, so I kind of know more what I like. So I fight that urge sometimes to over editorialize.
I always tell people I don't mind the direction as long as you're fine with me deviating. You know,
Yep.
um, like, and that's I think anyone who's bought a commission from me through you, I try to make sure that you guys ask certain questions so I can kind of get in the client's head a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's important to me, like, because to me, I want to make something that the client's pleased with, um, while simultaneously like being an artsy bitch and just wanting to do what I want to do, and that's a hard line to walk sometimes.
Yep. Oh, it is. Yeah. I can only imagine the struggle that comes with that. Um,
Have we ever talked about Scott McDaniel?
Last week we did actually a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
been on a real Scott McDaniel kick lately.
Yeah.
It's so good.
He's a guy who I probably wasn't paying close enough attention to for years, but I have friends who Scott McDaniel is a legend in their eyes, and then you see some of the stuff um, that they're kind of gawking over, and you start to understand why.
He just put up some new pages for anybody that wants to give Scott McDaniel money. On his website, he put up a bunch of Nightwing pages.
Oh,
And they're insane, of course, because he's a fucking lunatic.
when he did those art drops and stuff, they don't necessarily hit the um, collector brain as much as some other stuff, just because he does it on his site. I wonder if he has a. Oh yeah, right here. Huh. Yeah, Scott McDaniel's awesome. I'm trying to think. I finally started um, Maggie the Mechanic. Your recommendation.
Yeah, how's it landing for you?
Oh, it's good. I really enjoyed it. It's not what I expected. at all. That I don't think I had like any hardline expectations, but it just I can always dig that because I find even the smallest preconceived notion over what something is, you start reading it, and it takes a little while for my brain to clue in as to what it actually is.
Right.
So yeah, no, I love it.
Did you check out The Good Asian?
I have not. I have
Wow,
not.
book club, you fucked up, dude.
I did fuck that up because that
Well,
was
don't feel bad. I only got through the first like the first third of it because I was on vacation and I just didn't get to everything I wanted to get to. So
the well, it's funny, the preview online has 15 whole pages on it. It's pretty generous preview.
yeah, I mean it's a great book. It reads like butter, man. It's so clean and like smooth. You know, it's a proper noir. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't all I've read is Victor Alpai's Humark's Fantastic Amazement. Not because I have the book, in case someone's on here that is saying, because I think he's just shipping out the copies of the book yesterday, but I have the scans and they're all hand lettered. So
Oh
I
wow.
read the PDF artist edition.
Did did anybody? I'm kind of curious to if anybody read Jim Rugg's new thing, like that True Crime Funnies.
Um,
No?
True Crime Funnies. Is it brand new?
Yeah, I think it's pretty new. I saw it floating around. I could be wrong. It might not have been Jim Ruggs, but I just saw it and it looked really cool.
It is Jim Ruggs, yeah.
I don't know if anybody read it because it looked pretty awesome.
And you can't even get a copy on his site. They're sold out. So
Yeah.
it looks like you weren't the only one. I'm trying to think what else. What else is kind of. Well, I was on a decent kick right after Heroes, but then that kind of slowed down a little bit just because of summer.
Oh yeah.
Not that I'm complaining, but
I'm not a summer guy, so you can complain all you want.
well, in Western Canada, we only get, well, mind you, it's been hot. Like we've had an extended hot spring and summer season, so I really can't complain. But yeah, especially when we'll be buried under snow and minus 50 in January. So never complain. Never complain.
Y'all you got the extremity going on up there.
Yep.
Those extreme temps.
Yeah, we do get quite a bit of that.
I'm in the Ohio Valley, man. It's pretty chill down here.
Is it? You guys are things the climate pretty mild for the most part?
I mean, you know, like you still get all the seasons and stuff, but it doesn't ever seem to be like bastard one way or the other.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of dig it. It's
Oh yeah.
funny. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I love it here.
Yeah, yeah. I talked to some people, some older folks who retire, and they're spending 8 to 10 months a year in Arizona or the hot climate. Maybe I could maybe adapt to that, but I like the seasons. I don't like the extremes, but I like experiencing the seasons.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm a total sucker for cold weather too. I know everybody thinks I'm a psycho, but man, I'm just built for it. Well, and I just I'm not good at being a I suck ass at small talk. I think people here only doing 2 weeks. I probably already realized I get way more serious than I need to about some regular ass shit. And I think there's something about wintertime that really fosters that sort of introspection and hanging out with people is a lot more intentional in the wintertime. Like
Yeah.
it's not just kind of like, oh, we'll see you at the park. It's just kind of like, God damn, I gotta like bundle up just to see my friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think there's something special about that. I really like it.
Yeah, I know. I find the relief in the seasons is, your reprieve from the heat in when you get into an air conditioning building when it's 30 degrees outside, well, 30 degrees Celsius, that's an awesome feeling, just like a warm fire when it's freezing cold outside. So, you know, got to suffer a bit to be refreshed.
Yep, it's the massage therapist that I went to. She was talking about she loves the winter. She said even though she doesn't like the cold, but she loves the winter because it gives her an opportunity uh, to kind of be a part of the resurrection that comes every spring. And I thought that was a really sweet way to look at things.
Yep. Well, that makes sense. What so with Sin City, and did you enjoy the movies?
Yeah, I didn't see the second one.
Yeah, I only saw the second one once. It, it was kind of odd. I'm not sure. I remember not enjoying it nearly as much, but I can't remember exactly why. I guess it's one to revisit. Found it hard to revisit.
Yeah, I don't have any opinion about the second one, but I really thought the first one was great. You know, I think that was the general consensus, right? That it was fucking rad.
I think so. Yeah.
Look, man, I'm a fan of big brutish guys and babes. I'm an absolute mark for the sort of genre. Uh, no matter what, like you put me in front of a screen and there's just mean motherfuckers doing awful shit to each other and dames just being babes. Like you got you, like now it doesn't always work, right? Like
Yep.
that wasn't Given Hell Alone or whatever. Um, like was just not not there or whatever, that Tom Jane jaunt. But
Yep.
it felt bad, but it also felt like pastiche. It didn't feel like it was like it actually loved the genre. It felt like it was just kind of like almost like poking fun at it or something. And it's funny. I just rewatched Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I just say just rewatched. I watch it kind of regularly, but it's just so good. It's just such a great noir, and I don't think it gets enough love. It's such a fucking great movie. If you haven't watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit in quite some time, I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, I haven't watched it in a while. Swear it was almost stumbled across it somewhere the other day. I find it's kind of, and I don't know, is it an anniversary year for that or something? It's popping up on the social media feeds a lot more this last like 2 months, I'd say. I'm not,
Yeah,
I don't.
I don't know if it's an anniversary year, but it could be. It could just be a time of reappraisal. You know, we do that sometimes, um, where we get a nice reappraisal of something, and where we start acting like Jupiter Ascending or whatever was actually really great, or whatever bullshit we do.
Well,
Um,
actually, it might have been the Mario movie, and then Bob Hoskins,
well, Bob
and
Hoskins is the shit. Like that's undeniable. That dude rules.
yeah, yeah, he does, and I think
Rip
under
to the king.
very underappreciated um, in his time. God,
There was a funny story about Bob Hoskins where he was doing an interview uh, after doing Super Mario Brothers, and someone was like, "What like made you kind of excited to like jump into doing a video game adaptation?" He was like, "What are you talking about?" He apparently had no clue that Super Mario Brothers was based on a video game, which is so tight.
Well, I wonder if that movie comes out, yeah, it's the same plot, everything, and in a world where Super Mario Brothers as a game doesn't exist, does that hold up as just this batshit crazy idea that that carries like this cult status through the years? You
You'd
know?
hope so. Once again, that's back to like the big swing sort of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Like what a bonkers idea.
what I think with we're so saturated. I find that we have access to so many movies. Everything seems to be fairly saturated, and even I'm not complaining, but comic book movies very much so as well. You really start to appreciate those big swings. A lot of this stuff as a kid, I didn't even really know what I was watching, and Mario, I guess, but I remember watching Tank Girl as a kid, and
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I didn't know what I was watching. That's one I need to revisit.
Yeah, I
And
think like there's something about comics that I think when and this is maybe my real gripe. So earmuffs if people are big MCU stands in here. Um, I think the issue I have with these Marvel movies is how like close to the real world they fly. Um, and so to me it feels like there's no wonder in them. uh, like all the character work feels extremely believable, and like the mechanisms for the way that everything operates. At least when I quit watching them, it was feeling that way. I haven't watched them, and I think the last movie I saw, if you don't count the Spider-Man movies, was like Civil War. So like I'm way behind, but like they were just all feeling like these sort of semi-realistic but still funny, and I'm like, I don't want this. Like
yeah,
I want madness. I want crazy shit. Like someone told me that the whole and maybe we talked about this on the last stream. The whole Thanos, like they changed his motivation to like being like he's snapping because there's killing 2/3 of people or whatever because it's like because there's not enough resources and he was from a planet that didn't have enough resources or something, right? Uh, and I'm like, so you're telling me he wasn't in love with death? Well, that's way cooler to be in love with death and
yeah,
way more interesting.
yeah,
Like it makes him the Mad Titan. To me, that's just so much more fascinating. I mean, even Thanos is based on Thanatos, which is death. Like, so it's like this whole thing kind of falls apart to me uh, when it's too human or rational or something. Like there's something missing for me in this stuff, and so I tend to like, and I think that's why I'm always such a horror head. It's because they're like, "Fuck it, it's bonkers, let's go." And I'm
yeah.
like, "Yep, that's what I want."
Well,
Play in the subconscious.
you get so deep into the MCU with that stuff. I often forget, even trying to put everything into context with that. And I just was thinking about that the other day when Iron Man first came out and it felt kind of niche. I went with my
Mhm.
Iron Man shirt on and I felt like such a big nerd, but I also kind of had street cred because I read comics.
Right.
And but yeah, with the death thing is so far along. Well, and that reminds me the big swings of what have you ever heard of? I think there was an unused script for Halloween 4 maybe or Halloween 3 that's just batshit crazy. Um, like I think and if you know anything about it, correct me if I'm wrong, but I
I
think
don't.
I'm just trying to find it here. It might have been Halloween 4, maybe it's Halloween 3 before they decided to go. Um,
Wait, it wasn't the Halloween 3 for Rob Zombie's Halloween 3, was it?
no, it was one of the old ones where it was like,
Because that's an awesome story. If you've never read up on like the third Rob Zombie Halloween, it was Halloween 3D. Dude, it's cool. I
I
would watch
don't,
the shit out of that movie.
I know nothing about that.
So Zombie wasn't supposed to do it. It was somebody else. I can't remember the guy's name. The guy that did Jason X was supposed to do it. Um, and dude, they had him on some podcast that someone turned me on to recently. That was just like the greatest movies never made or something like that. And so he spent time talking about working on that. Fascinating, really cool, really great ideas. But whatever. I'm a big Halloween fan. I don't know what you're talking about though. I know there's the novelization that has so much cool shit in it.
Yeah, well, there was it's is there not a book somewhere too um that had like all like a ton of unused Halloween sequel plots and stuff like that. Um there's just kind of all this additional lore in these unused scripts and all this stuff that I find really interesting, and I don't really dive that nearly this deep into anything else. And I don't know what it is with Halloween that does it.
Yeah, there's something in it. There's something in Halloween that's just kind of special, though. I'm a little baffled, like that we just jumped right back into horror talk. I'm a I'm a little baffled that like studios struggle to make more Nightmare on Elm Street movies, um, considering like how like technology would make it very easy to kind of do Freddy's world so much more interesting. I mean, well, let me rephrase that. Actually, I not more interesting. I think it would free up some of the constraints.
Yeah.
I still think to this day that Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and 5 are some of the best looking studio horror movies I've ever seen in my life. Like the production design is incredible, but like I don't know. I don't think he's a hard character to work with. I think that the reason that Freddy rules is because he's a fairy, essentially.
Yeah.
Um, and if you can just see him as a fairy, like you got a lot to work with, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know why people can't get that right. Like I don't know why that was so hard with the reboot. I thought that movie sucked ass. It was the movie. It was the dude. I saw Thinner in the theater, and I stayed the whole time. I almost walked out of Nightmare on Elm Street. And I fucking saw Thinner. All right.
Yeah, I think I remember really looking forward to Thinner, and then finally, I never saw it in theaters, but
I
finally,
did almost get kicked out because my friend Adam and I started dying laughing when the dude hit the witch when he was getting a blowjob in the car. That was like the funniest shit in the world to us. Like we were roaring.
Yeah,
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, Thinner. The one thing about that, you talk about mean horror, though, that felt like a mean horror movie, that one.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. There's so many. I don't know what it is about the horror community. Maybe it's just because I'm immersed in it in terms of the podcasts I listen to, and we grew up Jason nerds, Michael nerds, Freddy nerds, whatever. So, but I feel like you said, if you can revisit some of these, I think there's a market for not just redoing these, but building off existing sequels. Like I would kill for Jason Takes Manhattan, but
Done well.
done well and in Manhattan. Like I would kill for that. That would be amazing. You know, just a direct sequel to any of the Friday the 13th movies, chopped together, cheesy as hell, just like the old ones are. Not cheesy, but make them like they used to make them and have a direct sequel. Because this stuff with the new one or the series coming out, Crystal Lake, I'm presuming that's still coming out. I'm not sure, but I was like, I don't know if I really want to see that.
Well, I'm not a fan of just like people being cruel to be cruel. Like, because I don't love the hostile stuff or whatever. And I think that it's kind of like, well, you like mean stuff. What's the problem? And I think the thing with meanness in horror that I like is because in a lot of these old movies, it's coming from a place of moralizing. Um, and once again, this comes back to like the old folktale nature of them, is that they're very moral movies. And I think that like they are punishing people for sinning. You know what I mean? And I think that there's something deeply like enjoyable about that for audiences.
Yeah,
Like even though we don't agree with it, we know that it's not the right. Like, people shouldn't be punished for having underage sex, but we do gleefully enjoy it. You know
yeah,
what I mean? To watch it on screen, there's something weird about that. Like it's like that. Like these killers are very moral in a weird way.
yeah,
Um, and I think maybe it's because you can come at it from both angles, which is like, well, you fuck around, you find out. Or also like, yeah, moralizing like what and telling people what to do and all that stuff is fucking wrong. And that's why they're the bad guys. Like there's something there that I think is substantial, even in its simplicity.
yeah,
And I kind of miss that. And that cruelty, I think, is what really makes it feel like, I don't want to say like real. It makes it feel potent.
Yep.
I think when it's like the real enemy's in your head, bro, or the real enemy's your dad, and he's fucking mean. It's like, who fucking cares? What about the guy who puts your skin on and eats your family, like because you fucked around on the wrong land? Like
Yep.
that's fucked up. Like we're saying something like I'm not saying that there's no place for that other shit, right? Like they're definitely, but it feels like that's the trend.
Yeah.
Did you see The Nun?
No. I always get The Nun is the Conjuring universe,
Yeah,
and then Insidious is something different,
different.
right?
Correct. So I would actually recommend watching The Nun because
Okay.
it's to me feels like the closest thing to one of those meandering like just fucking fright fests. It feels like a William Castle, like if William Castle got super fucking like drunk on, like being mean. Uh which is really a groovy vibe. It's like got a little bit of Hammer horror, a little bit of William Castle, but like a Stuart Gordon like chaos to it.
Yeah.
I really, it's the closest thing I've like that I've been like, ooh, this feels like classic horror without feeling like someone is like kind of like trying to like recreate the past.
Right.
That
Right.
makes sense. Another guy, Sean Byrne, the filmmaker Sean Byrne from Australia, he did The Loved Ones and The Devil's Candy.
Oh yeah.
Man, that guy rules. I feel like we got to change topics or we're going to lose people.
I haven't seen Devil's Candy. I don't believe. I love The Loved Ones though.
Yeah,
Um,
what's Devil's Candy?
Devil's Candy.
Does anybody have any questions about process or I don't know, contentious subjects like I don't know, fucking NATO or some shit? I don't know.
Yeah, so talking politics.
Yeah, what are we gonna really like? What can we really grind somebody's gears about in the chat tonight?
I think you guys are mesmerized. That looks awesome.
Yeah, we're getting there.
I I can't recall. Have you ever like done a commission of Marv or anything like that before?
I think I've only ever done one Marv, and it was a con sketch. Like I did one at a con,
Ah,
and that was probably 5 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, maybe.
yeah. How does that? I'm always it's always interesting because we take for granted your guys' ability to draw without reference. A lot of times, Fox storytelling says makes me want to draw and never draw again. Two pronged, yeah. I understand exactly what you're saying.
Did someone say fuck storytelling?
No, Fox storytelling is the person. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
know.
I thought someone was saying fuck storytelling, but like kind of making fun of me about my horror opinions. Like, hey, I like storytelling. I'm just talking my shit, all right? Let me live.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
you were saying.
Like when you draw a character, does it just go into the conscience or your conscious and just like, do you know right now if you've ever drawn every character, or do you just forget? So if
I
someone,
think I forget some. I think I forget some, but I don't know. If you forget, you forget, right? Like that's kind of how it works. Uh, if I forgot, I couldn't tell you I forgot because I forgot.
yeah, oh yeah, well, yeah, I always find it funny too because I've commissioned artists. You go to a show, and I in this I'm not even trying to take the piss at Audie Granov because he's awesome and he's wonderful to deal with. But I can commission Carnage from him once at a show, Emerald City years ago, and it was odd because at first I don't think he ended up using reference, but at first he kind of asked me for reference, and I'm just like that was kind of early in my collecting days, so I just thought that was so strange because I'm like, oh, you're like Mr. Marvel, and you're heavily associated with Marvel, especially at that time. Um, but then you kind of forget that, oh no, you guys are people, and you're not encyclopedias of character reference, And
Oh yeah, I
like
ask for reference a lot. Well, you know that. You take my commission requests. Fuck.
Yeah. No, I always commission Ragnarok Thor, not Ragnarok, not Thor from the Ragnarok movie, Walter Simonson's Ragnarok. You know that, but the viewers might not know that. But so I have like 10 pieces ready for reference at all times. And 2 of them are JP Leon's version.
Fuck you, man. I would get so mad if you said that to me.
What's that?
Just sent me a JP Leon piece like, oh, here's what I like.
Well, I think I'm always safe to send it just because some people are familiar, some people aren't. But I just dig those 2. He did 2. I think one was a commission and one was a cover, kind of similar layouts. But both of them were just exquisite. Just
my new rule is only send me reference for artists that are shittier than me.
Well, I commissioned Lee Weeks once for a Punisher, and it was beautiful. It was awesome. Lee Weeks is amazing, and he did. He's an awesome guy, nice guy too. But I just remember I said I wanted like white headband Punisher, so I just said yes. I think specifics. I said, yeah, just like Jim Lee Punisher, which I should have said white headband Punisher. But he's like, how about I just do Lee Weeks' Punisher? I'm like, no. He said it kind of in jest, but I'm like, oh yeah, I need to choose my words better for this.
You should have said there's more than one Lee.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it was beautiful. Lee Weeks is, I think, truly one of those guys that's kind of not of his time. I found he's one of those guys whose style and kind of as he has kind of evolved too, really holds up in multiple periods.
Timeless talent.
Yeah, absolutely. Even with like a little evolution, but. Yeah.
Stefano Gaudiano. Are you familiar with Stefano Gaudiano?
Yep.
Stefano and I had an interesting conversation about a lot of those timeless draftsmen. And both of us kind of, I think, and I don't want to put words in Stefano's mouth, but I think both of us agree that a lot of people like those guys that they're like don't think that I'm saying anything negative about this artist, okay? Because I'm not. But I'm just trying to observe a fact. When you look at John Byrne's art, it feels like it's from a certain time period.
Yep.
A very specific time period. And that doesn't make it bad. And we were kind of talking about how does that happen? Why does it happen with some artists and not with others? Why does Garcia Lopez not have as much of that effect? And Alex Toth doesn't have it at all, Yep. There's something, and both of us, I think, agreed that we think it's the inker. Or the manner with which they ink themselves.
Yeah.
Because there's certain artists now what if they start laying stuff down on the page or on the board or whatever, it has a certain look. There maybe like some artists it'll look kind of dated when you see the finish. But if you put a different inker on them, right? Like you might like it's just kind of crazy how different that I think if you say you take Jerry Ordway, right? If Jerry Ordway's inked the way that he's always inked, it's going to look like it's from the early 90s. You know what I mean? And that's beautiful. But it also, I think, makes it hard for some modern audiences to accept, if they're used to slick, more like Jorge Jimenez, slick stuff.
Yeah.
But if you put, say, like, and I'm not saying you should get John Glapian or Jay Lyston or somebody to do inking over him, it's going to update his look significantly. Just by virtue of maybe adding more angular lines, different style of thick to thin instead of like long swoopy strokes. And I wonder how much just like a little bit of an augmentation in the choice of inker could really make these guys, like completely relevant still, And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know the answer, but I think that there's some truth to that.
Oh yeah, no, I would say absolutely. And I think yeah, and I think partial part of it too is like I guess the timelessness of guys existing in any era or guys being very much of an era. I think that alone is a draw for a lot of people, a lot of collectors as well. Because an artist that I can't think of someone off the top of my head, but if someone is very much of an era that we
Yeah, you don't
love,
want to modernize Ramona Freydon or whatever.
yeah, yeah, that's perfect. That's a perfect way to say it. I do in terms of so timeless guys. I guess while we're on it, who else would you kind of consider timeless? Kind of the not
For
just
me,
timeless.
Ramita Jr. is my first. Ramita Jr. is my guy, so that's my first answer.
Yep.
Um, but like of guys that are still working or that I feel like could still be working.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, well, didn't yeah, I mean, I think I think even though he's more recent than some of the people we've been naming, I think Humberto Ramos is that guy.
Yep.
Um, Chris Bachalo, of course, but like they continue to evolve.
Yep.
Um, I do think that Frank Cho has a very timeless look to his work.
Yep.
Let's see here. I mean, obviously, Frank quietly, he's like Barry Windsor Smith in a way to me. He's just kind of in a class of his own.
Yep.
Um, I don't know, man. I'm trying to think of guys that were popular in an era and they never really, a guy. So I maybe the guys I'm thinking of too feel like they were ahead of their time, right? So like a Jay Lee
Yep.
or what's his name, Larry Stroman, who doesn't really work as much anymore.
Yep.
Uh, those guys I feel like have always kind of been ahead of the curve,
Yep.
and so it kind of like makes them feel timeless to me. But I'm just thinking of guys who had like runs on shit.
Well,
I Ron fucking Garney is
well,
the
when
nobody talks about Ron Garney. What a talent!
when I was with him, because I kind of have him and Lee Weeks in the same. They're in their own class, but just kind of similar in their timelessness. Of they've been around a while, been
Yep.
on big
Rick
books for a
Leonardi,
while. What's that?
Rick Leonardi.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And this just jumping back to Jay Lee when Jay like those Wolverine covers and he did that Dracula Apocalypse book. Um, did he do that book or just do the covers on that? Drawing such a blank here. He did that Hulk
Comic
thing.
book database had to fold and ruined our lives.
What's that? Oh yeah, yeah. But when Jay was so far ahead of when he kind of like stylistically, I wasn't really reading the Namor stuff or that older stuff of his, but man, that the new stuff he started doing, and I say new, it was probably 20 years ago now, but that made me feel it something that felt way ahead of its time.
And maybe this is an unpopular opinion, or maybe it's just a bias thing, but I feel like you can, if you take Gil Kane's work and give it to a modern colorist, it's going to look as good as anything else on the shelf.
Yeah.
I'm a big Gil Kane guy,
Yeah.
so people can disagree with me. That's okay, but I feel like it's special. I think the Kuberts are obviously like you can't like they're just incredible.
Yep.
Is a weird choice here, but maybe it's because it's weird. Is that the reason that it still endures? Is Keith Giffen?
Oh yeah. I
Um,
Yeah, no, I could see it. Victor says John Cassidy is one who sticks out for him.
oh, interesting. Yeah, Cassidy feels like he could be anywhere. Yeah, that's a great call, man. I wasn't trying to do him dirty like that. Steve Dillon was that way. Um,
Yep. Well, Steve Dillon was another one. Oh man, and then just the books he's on, uh, such fond memories. He was almost like the Ramita Jr. for me for a little while, where he was on a lot of stuff, and
mhm.
there's just like an uncomfortableness about. what you were seeing, how violent Ramita Jr. was on Punisher, and then seeing Dylan. Well, my stuff always goes back to the Punisher, but seeing that the Dylan Ennis Punisher stuff, and it's just violent and gross and horrifying, and there's just something so subtle about what he did. Yeah, yeah, Steve Dillon is an all timer, for sure.
I feel like I'm going to have to do Punisher next week.
Yeah, well, when you asked me last week, that was the first name that came to mind, but I thought that'd be too obvious.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like, I just love Eric Larson, but I know I'm kind of in the minority on that.
Yep.
I think Eric Larson's the closest thing we have to like a genuine modern Jack Kirby.
Yeah, no, I like Larson's work, but yeah, that might be somewhat controversial, but no, I get it.
I just mean in his ability to produce and be inventive on every page.
Yeah.
And that power that his work has. Like it has that same screaming like like fuck you up like on a temporal level where you're like, is this thing moving through time? I don't understand. Like I think Larson's hugely underrated, and it's because he's busy being a weirdo, and I think that's tight. That's also a big plus for me.
We had a dinner with him. First year I went to Fan Expo in Toronto. There's just basically a bunch of collectors, bunch of collector buddies, and him. It was awesome. Yeah, he was a joy to hang out and shoot the shit with, and everyone had our collecting portfolios, so yeah, he was looking. We were looking through art the whole night, but yeah, it was awesome.
I think Phil Hester doesn't get enough love in the sort of a guy who's extremely timelessly talented. Like Phil could draw. I mean, it looks modern, but like it's still like I feel like he figured something out. I guess now I'm talking less about timelessness and more about just like uniqueness that transcends like normal style.
Yeah, I think you're right too. He doesn't get enough credit. He's just spends too much time on Twitter promoting other people's work.
Comics uncle, man.
What's that?
He's comics uncle.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, a lot of times when he tweets, I'm always kind of eager to see if it's something new that he's posting, a new piece of work. But so
you keep notifications on for Phil?
No, I don't. But he's fairly prolific on there.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I have any notifications. I think the only one I ever had set on Twitter was Jason Schechter for Essential Sequential. And I was trying to get on Matteo Scalera's list years ago.
Yeah.
And that was that was that.
I have one notification on Twitter for one person, and that is Drill, if you know Drill.
I do not.
If anybody here on the chat knows Drill, if you know, you know what I mean.
So Fred brings up Brian Hitch, especially when he's inked by Paul Neary, as being timeless, and
that's a good call. Yeah, good call, Fred.
Alan Davis as well.
Yeah, Alan Davis. Alan Davis feels like he's like it's hard to put your finger on Alan Davis. Because sometimes I feel like when I look at his stuff, I do feel like it's a little like from the past. Yeah. And then other times, you know what it is? I feel like Alan Davis to me feels like a modern Neil Adams. Like if someone cleaned up Neil Adams for like modernity or something like that. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. I'm not saying it looks that way. I'm telling you how it feels to me.
Yeah.
It's very, very like whenever I see Alan Davis, I'm like, oh yeah, this is like kind of like but it's funny because I think Neil Adams, as much as I like the way Neil Adams draws, the thing that excites me about Neil Adams more than anything was his inking. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. Carlos brings up another one, Norm Brayfogle.
Oh, Norm Brayfogle, so good. And Norm Brayfogle, if you just recolored him now, really something else, man. Those old 90s Kieran Dwyer, now that I'm thinking of those 90s Bat books too, old Kieran Dwyer really kind of feels like it could have been at any time.
What? Talking about Scotty McD, Scott McDaniel. Carlos is one of those guys who is a big Scott McD fan.
Carlos got good taste.
Yeah, he occasionally he has good taste. Every now and then we're at odds over certain things, but
What was my contentious argument last show where I was cussing everybody who didn't like somebody? Was it Ramita Jr.?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think
balling everybody out.
I think he took a little bit of heat over that.
I don't give a fuck. Give me all the heat. Give me the heat, you cowards.
Well, it's a hard. I always find the heated conversations in this hobby, especially for me who doesn't draw. Everything's from a place of, well, this guy's better than this guy or whatever. Carlos wants to debate Gary Frank. I love
Gary Frank's an interesting choice. I'll give it to you.
But Carlos,
that's a tough one, man.
Carlos's Gary Frank opinion is, I think, formed 100% around how he draws Batman's eyes. Correct me if I'm wrong, Carlos.
What the fuck is that? Explain this to me. Explain yourself.
We're attacking him. You might hop off.
No, I want to know this because I don't know anything about Batman's eyes in a way that makes sense. Ooh, Stuart Immonen. So, yes, well, does Stuart Immonen count because he's such a chameleon? Like, yes, the eyeballs. You're gonna have to explain this to me, Cam, because I don't know if he's gonna want to try to run it down over text.
Well, I think it's just because the eyeballs. He shows the actual eyes. It's not just Batman in mask with white eyes.
Oh, is that faux pas? You're not supposed to do that, right?
I don't know, but I don't know if Frank was happy to do it or Carlos is the only man that draws Batman with eyeballs.
Oh, Steve Ditko was the only guy that drew fucking Spider-Man with eyeballs. So, you ever see that drawing?
I have not. No.
Oh, dude, look up Steve Ditko Spider-Man eyes. It fucking rules. Dude, just put little dots in the white eyes. I mean, I'm sure it was probably an inking issue, maybe.
Yeah.
Like maybe the pencils were just there to mark but super funny to me.
Yeah, no, that eyeballs. It's these Batman collectors, man. They're a finicky lot, right, Carlos?
I'm kind of glad no one commissions it from me then, because I feel like I'd bum everybody out.
Oh, Victor's working on a commission right now. We should have brought him in on this. What's the commission, Victor? No. Yeah, no, I'm really giving it to Carlos here, but he's got good taste, and he's a force of nature on the convention floor. I've never seen someone get more done than him.
I always kind of admire when people show up and I just like they'll show their portfolio and I'm just like, what the fuck? This is crazy. Y'all are wild.
A Guardians piece from Victor. Well, next stream on the commissions. I was supposed to bring on a guest for this one, Brian, but I kind of dropped the ball.
Oh, who's it supposed to be?
A number of people I was going to ask, but now I just didn't.
Wait, was I supposed to bring on some of the commissions I was working on to show them?
No.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Because if Adam's still here, I've still got his. Like, it's real close to being done. Well, it's not real close, but it's close enough. I just been with all the traveling and stuff. I haven't got a chance to finish it up. But
Adam, if you're on,
I would have given some peeks to people.
Let me just
I'm sorry I'm not fast at them. It's hard, like being a tattooer, and I learned a lesson this year though, I'll tell you that much, like just full stop, like too many projects going at the same time and kind of working through several to saying no to some stuff, and that's a hard lesson, when you like making stuff all the time. It's a
Yeah.
hard lesson, to kind of like when you realize like you're kind of on the verge of letting people down, or you are letting people down, just because you've overbooked yourself or whatever. And the commissions, everybody's been cool, so I don't really think that necessarily applies, but it could,
Yep.
Um, and so it's something that I've become a little bit more mindful of. I think some of it's just aging. Like I don't have the ability to stay up till 4 a.m. every single night. Like I got to trim it out, some nights and go to bed. But
What time's the shop open? Do you guys? Is it like midday kind of thing?
yeah, we start at noon, but it depends. I try to stay flexible. Like if I've got like clients that are from out of town, and I try to make sure I can, like if I need to go in a little early and stuff like that, And like you get clients that come in from out of town and they're staying at a hotel. So I feel guilty if it's just like, cool, you flew in. Like I try to have a meal with them, if they're gonna fly in or travel in
Yep.
from a couple states or whatever. So try to plan a breakfast or something, so we might get started a little early.
Right. Oh, totally get it. And you need your sleep.
Well, if I want to do a good job on stuff, I feel like that's true. Could just go jobber mode and sleepwalk through everything, but I don't think anybody would like that. If after I get done with this tonight, I'm probably going to go lie in bed and read, and then go to sleep. So I'm not going to have a super late night tonight.
It probably doesn't happen that often. Carlos is wondering what's easier, art on skin or art on paper.
Oh, tattooing's easier. Um, like designing tattoos is pretty hard, um, but the boundaries of the skin really like are so much more evident, and you can only work skin so much before it rejects you entirely, and you scar people and shit. So
Yep.
like there's a lot different. There's just different limitations. The craft to me is much easier. Um, because I think there's just not enough room to like bang your head against the wall. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like here, like I can do kind of anything, and so it's kind of like the atomic bomb thing where it's like I spend all this time thinking about whether I can or can't, and when I should think about whether or not I should.
Oppenheimer
Yeah,
out tomorrow or whatever.
yeah. That was this stream is paid for by Warner Brothers or whoever.
Yeah, let's get some of that YouTube ad money or whatever that makes some people rich, but then other people um, they they don't get paid anything. I don't know. We
Just are you like make your buy art from us, so your walls can be as nuclear as the Nevada desert. uh, Oppenheimer out tomorrow.
Carlos wants to know what the most scandalous body part you've ever tattooed has been.
I mean, I've done it all. You know what I mean? Like, I've done it all. Name a part, I've tattooed it.
Yeah, I guess.
Scandalous is really dependent on, I think, the asker of the question. Carlos, what's the most scandalous part that you'd like to know if I've tattooed it or not? Because guess what? It's yes.
Yeah, don't get us a strike, Carlos. Whatever you do. I don't know what you got to. We've had strikes on these before. I've had the streams just shut off before, and then I get a notification that we violated something.
Really,
And
was
you
it just music or something, background music, or just
not even that. And then you appeal
had
it.
bad opinions about Alan Davis or something?
Well, and then you appeal it just because I mean it's one thing for the stream to get shut down midstream. It's another thing to have a strike against you because I think that really screws you over if you have multiple strikes. But I just appealed it, and they're like, no, yeah, we granted your appeal. You're fine. No strike. I'm like, well, that was weird. They just shut off our stream for absolutely no reason.
Yeah, thanks, Doug. Yeah,
Uh,
I don't want to get a strike, so I'm just not gonna.
yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
do the listeners hit the button or some shit, like report it because they're, I don't know.
Maybe it's someone that was disgruntled about an opinion on.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. I can't even remember who it was or
Yeah, I
who.
wish I had an apology in me for that sort of thing, but I'm not apologizing for anything I've said today.
No, I don't think you've said anything too bad, and I don't think you've got anyone riled up either.
No, it's real. This is such a tame show. It's a family friendly show.
Well,
When the kids,
Carlos.
when the kids want to know about Terrifier 2, we know where to send them.
Well, that's my only issue with Terrifier 2 because a couple of the scenes early on, because you just know that so much of that movie was sold on the shock factor. But anytime something like that gathers so much um, mainstream kind of exposure, I'm
Hmm.
like, what is this? Like, what hit the nerve of the mainstream that people who don't watch horror movies are talking about? Carlos
I'm telling
thinks,
you, man, it's mean. That's what
yeah, it is mean.
I think. That's what it is. I genuinely do. I think that like it has a spirit of no fucks to give, and I think people want that.
Yeah,
Same thing with Bone Tomahawk. Bone Tomahawk was mean as the Dickens, and it's all anybody talked about when it came out.
that's true. Yeah,
I think that everybody like filmmakers currently are, they I always tell people I want to hurt your feelings with my books, but I want to hurt your feelings on purpose, not by accident, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
And so I think that it's real easy to get in your head about doing it by accident. So you might trim something or pull a punch or something like that because like, this is gonna fucking hit a raw nerve in a way that I'm not really keen on
yeah.
personally. And so you'll pull the punch. And when you get a guy like, Damien Leon, where he was just like, I don't fucking care. You know what I mean? Like you're just like, oh, cool. Like people respond to that, man.
I like it because there's some weird tropes that aren't really followed in it, like it, and so that it's kind of weird in that sense, where it's that uneasiness. It's almost like um, in It Follows, where there's uneasiness because of what's happening, but it's also you're uneasy because you don't know what era you're fucking watching.
Oh yeah,
Like,
I think that guy is one of my current favorite filmmakers. I think he is stupendous.
yeah, well, I think yeah, I think It Follows alone is one of the best horror movies of all time.
Did you watch Under the Silver Lake?
Uh, I I only got halfway through that,
Oh my god, it's like that's my shit, man.
and I think
I,
I was trying. Maybe I'll revisit it. I thought I was watching that passively, and I just wasn't really. I was missing stuff. Since on your advice, I'll revisit that
oh yeah, that's one of those movies that'll get people violently angry that you like it so much.
one.
You know what I mean? Like it is a contemptible film, and I love it for it.
Carlos says probably another rep striked us. Jarrett says it was because of all the history talk.
Well,
Yep.
good feedback, Jared. I'll keep it in mind, even if I don't plan to
What?
curb it.
I don't think it would have been. It definitely wasn't Felix because he's got tons going on this week. I don't think he has enough time. Speaking of that Stuart Immonen, I think that drops tomorrow. The 50 Reasons Not to Sketch at Cons. Um, he's dropping all those strips. I think it's tomorrow. So that's kind of cool.
Um, so hold on. So you got a strike today?
No, 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 no. Oh, a while back, but yeah, I can't even remember when it was. Well,
Well,
but if we
so
get
sorry.
stuck,
So sorry.
we'll blame it on you in the history talk.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll take it. My shoulders are strong enough to carry this. All
That
right, we're
is
gonna
a stunning piece of work.
thanks. I'm almost done. I'm gonna put a little bit of this like super light gray in here just to kind of make these bandages stand off, and then hit it with some razor blade. You know how I do.
Yep.
I like a good razor blade. That's that Dave Lapham in me. Dave Lapham's the guy whose shit's completely timeless.
Yep. Well, I was thinking when we were talking about Maggie the mechanic, for some reason, David
I
Lapham
know.
jumped into my brain there as well.
Who did?
David Lapham.
Yeah. And Jaime is kind of like both Jaime. I think Jaime and Gilbert to a degree, but Jaime definitely has a timelessness to their cartooning.
Yeah. Well, I'd be curious now because with what we're seeing now, a lot of the new artists, both in indie comics, big two, who kind of stands the test of time, you know. And like I said, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like if you give me an artist and they've got a real grungy 80s style to it, and that's still the style they're running with, and it takes me to a place of like grungy, dirty 80s comics, I'm all for it. Take me there.
Yeah.
Being of an era isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, I think if he was still alive, Carlos, what's his name? Truglia? Is that his name? Truglia?
Um,
Like it just feels like it's like everything he did just feels like it's like right from that 2000 to 2003, like locked there. Like you could only make that happen then.
yeah,
Jeff Matsuda, right? Like Matsuda's stuff feels like it's just decisively like 90s, and when you see it, you're like, oh yeah, this is like 90s comics.
yeah, yeah. Which I can definitely dig. Well, because now 90s comics feel like 10 years ago. Early 2000s comics feel like 5 years
Well,
ago.
Ed Piskor, his stuff definitely takes you to a time period
Yeah,
when you see Ed's stuff. I don't know him, so like I said him just like we were on a first name basis. But I don't know him, but his stuff definitely kind of feels like it's cut from a certain era.
yep, big time.
And not like there's those dudes that they just draw, like when you look at Smallwood stuff, like it feels like it's from the 60s or something.
Yeah,
Or same thing with Doc Shaner or whatever, but like a little bit more cleaned up and modern.
yeah.
But like those guys, they just feel like they're kind of shooting for. But like I think the way that just Ed Piskor draws feels like it's from another era.
What I dig about his, yeah, it feels like it's from another era. That there's just kind of this maybe more modern sensibility, and I don't even want to say modern sensibility, but more modern kind of fearlessness in how he tells the stories. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's not confined to. Yeah, no, I love Pisker's stuff. No one really like him.
Where the hell did I put that razor blade? You're gonna have to bear with me for like 30 seconds so I can find my razor.
I'm disappointed you just don't have one on you.
Well, I did have one. I was using it to dig a scab out of my thigh earlier. There it is.
Or a switchblade or something.
No, I got it. That's what I got right here.
Nice. That's how you're helping the rain effect.
Huh?
That's helping kind of the rain effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it just kind of bounces off the paper. So you just kind of get like a slightly more choppy rain look. But you can kind of direct it a little bit more too. Like the more pressure I get, the bigger the chunks I get out of it, the bigger the skip. But you can kind of like, if I was going to do like a thing where I could kind of like, you can kind of do like the whole, really have it bounce off in directions,
Yep.
Which is kind of fun.
Have you ever worked on scratch board before, clay board? Or
Oh yeah, back in the day.
Yeah?
Yeah, back when I was in my school days.
Did you enjoy that?
I don't remember. I like making art. I don't like fighting it, so I feel like I could go either way, you know?
Yeah.
There's a part of me that feels like this is not. Forgive me, y'all, for kind of keeping the door open on this, but your boy's gotta put some values to bring us in a little bit, because I'm not. It's a little too white on the edges here. It's not centering the piece.
Yeah, you've once again went overboard.
How long? Well, are you talking about how long we've spent? What time? Where are we at on time?
Well, not time wise. We're at an hour 40, which I mean,
Yeah,
whatever.
that's pretty long. Like we did like an hour and 30 from pencil to inks last time, so I just been kind of.
Yeah, no, I meant just you went overboard to the benefit of all of us and whoever gets to buy this piece, unless you decide to hold on to one of these. But
Bro, I got kids and I just went on vacation. You sell this, homeboy. Buy it from this man so I can fucking pay off my credit card from the eating a nice dinner with my family. pay for my dinner.
Yeah, your rep needs to make money as well, because I went to the Calgary Stampede and spent. I was down like within 5 minutes of
Cam's
walking into
rodeo
that.
fund.
It was down like $100, and we played like one carnival game. Oh yeah, my son was loving it, but Dad wasn't.
Bank account wasn't.
I've taken a break from moderating just to make the screen larger so I can gawk at it a bit.
Can everybody still hear you, or am I shouldering this thing now?
No, I think you're good. I think everyone's kind of done the same thing. Yeah. And I think we must have. It's dueling dealers on Wednesday on Bill's page, so we may have to.
Are we the only ones still around, or are there other people here?
No, they're still there. They're still there. But I think the first half of the show, we've kind of been competing with dueling dealers and a couple.
Do we need to do a different night?
What's that?
Do we need to do a different night?
Well, it might be something to look at kind of going forward. It's nice because you get, guys kind of can jump back and forth. But,
well, we didn't. I actually don't even. I kind of don't get the. If we could get the link just a little early and just not open it, is that possible? Because I can start posting on Twitter, because I have a lot of people on Twitter that follow me. So
yeah. Well, we'll look at it. I just can't remember. There's so many.
You guys like being in the troubleshooting right now, y'all? This is the very exclusive troubleshooting phase.
Yeah, you peek behind the curtain, the boring scheduling stuff. But there's a lot going on this week. I keep forgetting about San Diego. Is that this week? Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Have you ever done San Diego?
Never done it a day in my life. All right, y'all. I think he's done. Let me see if I can turn this. This slowly turned over time. So I can get us a little closer. There we go. Everyone see that?
Unbelievable.
Pretty That's groovy awesome. Dude.
Yeah, that is awesome.
My man Marv.
Should be a cover.
Okay, you know what, man? Taking out that bridge. It's just a straight line now, the way Frank would have it.
Wow.
All right. We did it, guys. You all survived.
Yeah.
I say that, and I'm like, maybe we could do a little water running down the back there.
So yeah, San Diego's next week, Fred says. Well, Jarrett, Victor, be prepared. It's going to be your turn here soon. And I don't know, do you want to do when we do these kind of as we go? I guess guys might be working on commissions and stuff as we go, but
Is Victor going to get on here and draw?
well, I certainly hope so.
When? Is he still in the chat?
When, Victor?
If you're hanging out, you already know how insufferable I am, so you should at least have a good gauge on how much you can deal with.
Yeah, we could do. Mind you, I kind of like well, this wasn't your first choice today originally.
No, Daredevil was, but then I went to go start drawing, and the first thing in my thing was this Daredevil that I'd done. So I was like, well, I'm not going to just do another one. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's great. I almost don't want to confine you with just having a theme ahead of time. Because I kind of like the off the cuff, on a whim, what you're feeling kind of thing. So, yeah. No, that's awesome, sir.
Thank you.
I think
Yeah, I think we've finished here.
Yep.
I say we finished, but now I'm just going to kind of go, oh, this could be just a little darker, and it's just what the fuck I do.
With having it, did you pencil it earlier today? Oh, I guess
Yeah, I put some rough pencils down.
Yeah. keep forgetting, Victor's that he's probably getting bombarded right now with fantastic amazement, fulfillment, and all the books going out. But probably a very busy week for him.
You got help, Victor? Where are you located?
Savannah,
Georgia. Good. My friend Kate teaches at SCAD down there. She's an exceptional artist. She drew a couple of comic books that I wrote. She's super talented. Kind of one of those people that can draw in any style at any time, and it's kind of gross. You're like, well, fuck you, dude. You're real good. You gotta fight for every goddamn line. Oh well. Grass is always greener, whatever, right?
Yep, that's right.
Okay.
Well, I think maybe we'll wrap up there, Brian. I don't know. Still, every 2 weeks until something changes, I'll be more diligent with some of the scheduling. And yeah, this was awesome, Brian. Appreciate it. Thanks for everyone who hopped on.
Yeah, everybody, thanks for hanging out with us and just listen to us cut up and be idiots. But
and you guys, I will put this on the site, but as the gift or the Adam wants a peek.
Adam, I gotta go upstairs at this point. You gonna give me to the end? Give me 30 seconds. Cam, you're on. Go.
Okay. Do you guys want my stand-up routine, or I could? I don't even want to put the camera on myself. Let's just look at Brian's work. But yeah, we'll do. Plan is to do bi-weekly, just because things are busy. But yeah, honestly, a weekly stream with Brian and Victor and Jarrett and Maria and Kevin and Adam and any number of people, any number of artists. Like to start doing a lot more of these. They're a lot of fun. They are a lot of fun. I enjoy them, and I hope you guys do too. That's all you get.
You can get a little better. Let me see if I can give you a little action there. That's what you get. Sneak peek for you. This thing's been a blast to work on. You're getting a lot of crow quill from me on this. Very few pens. Lots of brush, lots of crow quill. So got some fun mark making on it.
Oh, thank you, Adam. And yeah, thank you, Brian. Thanks everyone who hopped on. And like I said, we'll probably see you in 2 weeks if things ever slow down, which they don't ever seem to do. Mm-hmm. Considering a weekly scan, Brian might only commit to one every 2 weeks. But yeah, these streams are a lot of fun, and appreciate everyone hopping on.
Much appreciated, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.